Thank you. So I'm going to tell a story about how Intercom was kind of born and what we struggle with most today. And today we're a 300-person company with offices in Dublin, Chicago, and San Francisco. But in 2011, we were a 4-person company on a street you've never heard of in a part of Dublin that you've probably never heard of in Ireland. And we actually didn't even have a product called Intercom. We had a product called Exceptional. And the biggest problem we had with Exceptional was we had all these customers, but we had no way to talk to them. So one day we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we put a little message inside to talk to our customers? And this was the very, very first instance of what became a pretty large company. So we built a little bit of software, and this is the, I've never shown this before. This is the first design of Intercom. I think it's good, but and we spent most of our waking hours. This is literally page 1 of my personal email account when we started Intercom, and every single email there is me asking people, please, please, please try this fucking thing we're building, because we hope to God it might one day work out. And it started to work out. But having been 4 people in Dublin, having had one product that didn't necessarily blow up, we thought, let's try the other route. Let us leave this no-name street in Ireland and do what it is that you're supposed to do when you're an Irish person, which is you go to America because the streets are paved with gold. So we jumped on our flight and we went straight over to San Francisco because we had read in all the tech blogs that by simply landing in San Francisco, people will just throw money at you. And that was certainly what we were promised, and it didn't necessarily work out that way, to be totally honest. This is us the day we incorporated the company, August 15th, 2011, and we went and started talking to venture capitalists. And what they basically all wanted to do was pigeonhole us. They kept saying, which of these holes do you fit into? You can't just be a thing that talks to customers. You have to be a help desk or an email marketing solution or a live chat solution. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to do this pattern match. They will say things like, well, I invested in a help desk product before and that worked, so I will invest in you if you're a help desk product. And we weren't a help desk product. What we were trying to do was say to them, look, there's a new way that tools are getting built. And by the way, if around here I'm seeing a lot of people follow this model, but the old way for us was that you had all of these different disparate tools, and they were all separate silos of information, and you were supposed to try and do your best to get them all to work together, and they never did. This was the broken promise of Web 2.0, was that APIs would somehow make all this shit work together. It doesn't. And we tried to pitch Intercom to them at the time as being, it's this new thing, it's this new way, it's this single place. And this was the diagram we used, and then people started to copy it, which was weird. We saw this diagram again and again and again. And we're like, wow, obviously we struck a chord, right? And funnily enough, these days I can't go online without seeing this damn diagram everywhere. Because it turns out that software not working together is actually a problem. And we didn't fit into a pigeonhole, but that was okay, we weren't supposed to. And since then, we've raised, I think, $116 million, and we now have tens of millions of revenue. And we've gone on to decent success, given our humble beginnings in sort of Dublin, Ireland. But most of what I think about these days is actually not about success or happiness, but it's actually about having fought so hard, having spent so much time and energy, 1/6 of my entire lifetime, trying to make this Intercom thing happen, with 3 of my close friends. The idea that one day it could just go away is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. You spend so much time trying to make this thing, and then it could all just disappear. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we should be optimistic. Here is a chart of, I think it is net new revenue or something like that, I can't remember. But this is Intercom's sort of trajectory. Today we're adding about $1 million every 10 days in ARR. But there's really been like different phases in Intercom. Just being like, we've had to like, create the product. We've had to grow the product. But most of all, what we think about today is, how can we stay alive? How is it can stay alive? Which is a weird thing to be stressing about, given our situation. Given that we actually have all these customers, we've all this money, we've all this revenue. This is not what we were promised. I always presumed that if we actually ever got to this point, it would be all Teslas and champagne. There would be no stress left in life. But the reality is we've never felt more vulnerable, because now it actually has worked out. Now we're stressing about how do we keep it damn alive. And we really thought that like Andy Dufresne in The Shawshank Redemption, that if we crawled through this 100-yard sort of tunnel of pure shit that is starting a startup, and we get out the other side, that we would somehow be free. That it would be easy, that everything will go simple from this point onwards. But there is actually a more important lesson in The Shawshank Redemption, and it's not that crawling through shit is good, but it's actually that you have to get busy living or get busy dying, because death is the most natural thing to happen to all of your companies. It's actually the one thing short of a tax bill that you can probably bank on. And every breakthrough product dies, no matter what it is. You could be looking at all the fancy AR and VR headsets. They too will pass. And specifically, you think that your strength might come from your financial firepower. But if we look at something like the 500 most powerful companies in the world a mere 50 years ago, and we see how they got on, how did their revenue help them? How did all of the mass and ability and acquisitions they could do, how many of them are still left with us today? The answer is very few, because death is actually what happens. And I grew up, like I'm sure a lot of you, in the Web 2.0 era, where we had this proliferation of products from 2002 to 2006. And similarly, they all started to slip away. So whenever I see Intercom listed on one of these charts, and here we are we're in the service and support category, because again, investors love to pigeonhole. Here we are, and I wonder, shit, will we be one of the X's or one of the O's? And it's a stressful thing to think about. And you know what's interesting is, when you go online to read the books, the blogs, the podcasts, the conference talks, all anyone talks about is how to start a business and how to grow a business, but there's actually not as much material about how to keep a business alive. So we have all of this fantastic stuff, and we've added a lot to it ourselves in our time at Intercom about here is how you can start, here's how you grow, here's how you add features, here's how you take features away. But none of this shit matters when you're facing existential threats. The reality is, for all businesses, that success will breed complacency, complacency will breed failure, and thus only the paranoid survive, as Andy Grove once said. So one thing I've become morbidly obsessed with is this notion of death. What is it that causes companies to die? And I've been looking at the companies that succeed, specifically those who can succeed through multiple cycles of sort of technological innovation, and those that simply slipped away. And I have a sort of base theory, which is, we start off with somebody who is has a problem, and this is the biggest problem in their life. Maybe they can't find their friends. Maybe they don't like their time tracker. Maybe it's too complicated to talk to their customers. But they have a problem, and they have the genesis of what looks like a solution. And this becomes their idea. So they now think, I've got something, I'm onto it, I'm going to start creating this. So they build a solution, and then they create an entire company that can continue to build that solution. What that means is they have a product, a brand, a team, an infrastructure, an architecture, everything you need to build that solution. And when competitors will come along into the marketplace, which is the first thing you get if you're successful, they too will have all of these, and you will measure yourself against them. You'll be like, what is your average response time? What is your ARR? You will only look at yourself and them in terms of the metrics that appeal to that first solution. So what that looks like when you play it out is that, maybe you had an idea for a way to put news together and keep people entertained. And over time, you become so obsessed with this solution that you invest money in creating things that can make that solution as efficiently as is possible. And it works. It works for so long. You have all, everything's perfect, right? This is what people do. When people are bored on commutes, they want to read something. But when this happens, we struggle. Because we were so obsessed with the idea that the solution involved ink on dead wood that we totally didn't realize what the problem was all along. The problem wasn't people couldn't hold paper. That was not the problem. They confused the job, which is users want to be entertained on their commute, with a first successful solution, that is, users want newspapers. And when you confuse the job with the solution, you are tying yourself to one cycle of innovation. Telecom providers, people who send SMSs, they were obsessed with the idea that they were an SMS company who sent SMSs. So when WhatsApp comes along, they do the exact same job, which is help me connect with my friends, but they do it in a better way. And they absolutely annihilated the global SMS infrastructure within the space of 3 years. We've had some success taking this approach ourselves, as have Slack. Slack, for example, a lot of people think that email's job is to send email. It's not. It's to help people in work connect with each other. And Slack helps people in work connect with each other, and that's why 4 million people use their product every single day. A lot of people think that sending emails to customers is their job, but their job is actually talking to customers. So when we built a way to talk to your customers on a website, people who are obsessed about sending emails to customers weren't ready to respond. The thing here is that human needs rarely change. Solutions always change. For as long as people have existed, we have wanted to write long, boring stories. Back in the old days, we would hire people to write them on scrolls. Today, we write them on Medium. For as long as there's been goods, people have wanted to sell goods. You used to open physical stores. Today, you open Shopify. For as long as people have been people, we've wanted to send funny stickers and messages and emoticons to each other. In the old days, you carved it into a wall of a pyramid. Today, you send it via Snapchat. But the need hasn't changed. And actually, Jack Dorsey said this a while ago, and he said, you just take a human desire that has been around for a long time and use technology to take out steps. The key point here is that the things your customers need to do rarely change, but the way that they can be done will always change. So you must react. And the way to react to any new technological shift is to consistently ask yourself, does this new technology, whether it's augmented reality or VR or whatever, does it make it cheaper, faster, or easier for our customers to make progress in their lives? That is the core question. What that looks like is you have to obsess about your problem, not your product. Always know what the problem you solve is and be dispassionate about your first successful solution. And secondly, listen out for any tectonic shift in technology and react to it. We've had some recent tectonic shifts. AI, for example, has blown up this year, specifically with the most recent achievement from Google's DeepMind team, which is the one thing we thought we were better at on computers was a game called Go. And this year, they beat us at Go too. So basically, we're done as a species. But AI is undeniably one of these tectonic shifts that will have implications for every industry. Messengers have just blown up. Ever since WhatsApp's acquisition, like every single one of these products here is a messenger. Every single one of them. And as a result, people spend the vast majority of their time when their phone is in their hands, the vast majority of the time, they're in a messenger. They're not in your product. Bots have also been a part of this shift. We are now banking on the combination of artificial intelligence and messaging, and it looks like bots, and bots are absolutely everywhere. These are all tectonic shifts that are happening this year alone. And if you want to stick the course, and if you want to make sure your company can survive these shifts, you again have to obsess about your problem, not your product. And listen out for these tectonic shifts and work out how to react. And if you can do that, then you just have a chance that maybe you actually will potentially recover and stay alive. I'm Traynor. My company is Intercom. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much.